So in the winter months, some of the trees they shed all their leaves. Then they get covered with beautiful flowers. So this is one such flowering tree, which made me very curious to know more about them. This is basically from South America, having seen something very unusual. And when I showed these pictures to my friends, many of them thought I must have taken these pictures from Malaysia or Singapore, not really in Jamshedpur. This was known as a baobab tree. It's a very huge tree. It looks like a giant elephant's leg. It's a huge one, and in most part of the year, the tree will be leafless. Only bare branches will be seen. But how do we sensitize children to appreciate nature? The role of a teacher is very important. Observing nature, walking in nature, is nothing short of a meditation. I grabbed this opportunity to talk about paradigm shift in the way biology is taught, not because I'm a teacher, I'm a cardiologist by profession, because for the last 2 years, I had been trying to propagate in our society, the society in Jamshedpur, especially the school children and the Rotary Club members. I wish to sensitize them to observe the beautiful things of nature around us. Unless you appreciate, unless you observe, you will not have the desire to conserve. So, with that intention in mind, with no experience of teaching methods, I wish to share what I have experienced in the last 6 years of observing nature. So that is a disclaimer I'm telling. The opinions are drawn from personal experiences, which had been very enriching for me. As I told you, I work in Jamshedpur, but I grew up and studied in Kerala. And I had a privileged childhood in which we are surrounded by a lot of trees in our ancestral house in Thiruvananthapuram. My father was a conservator of nature, conservator of forests. So he used to expose us to all types of nature, be it plant, butterfly, birds, fish, whatever. All those childhood experiences, I'm drawing back now after my retirement from active service. And I suppose it's very important to expose children to many things in their receptive years. They may draw upon some of those pockets of memory lying in their brain at some time later on. That's what happened with me. Even before my retirement in 2018, after the age of 50 or so, for the sake of maintaining good health, I used to walk in the Jubilee Park, which is in the heart of the Jamshedpur city. The park would be very beautiful in different times of the year. Sometimes there'll be many white colored flowers on the trees, sometimes yellow, sometimes pink. I did not know the name of most of the trees there, except the Kanikurna, which grows very well in Kerala. So I used to take photograph of those flowering trees and gather information as much as I could. I had just put everything in my computer as a storage of information. Over a period of time, I found out that I had gathered information about more than 120 flowering trees in and around Jamshedpur. And the next job was to identify what was the name of the tree, how did the name come from, does the tree belong to India or has it been brought from any other country? So all this information was very uh, curiosity rising issues. So after my retirement, in the next few months, I tried to combine all that information together. My problem was that what is the name of the tree? So with that in mind, what attracted me the most was the color of the flower. So I grouped them according to the colors. All the flowers White in color were in one group, yellow, pink, then mauve. So different colors, I had put them in groups. And then based on the size from small to large, uh, a pattern emerged which made identification of the trees easy for me. And I had bought many books on trees of India. Most of those books are meant for botanists who already know about the trees themselves. Or some of those books had excellent pictures in black and white, which did not correlate with what I really saw in the garden. So, overcoming all those deficiencies, I would like to say, overcoming all those points of view, which did not help a novice in me. My grouping helped me to understand better. So in the year 2019, Tata Steel, for which I worked for more than 4 decades, they published the book for in-house circulation. So this is what I meant by telling grouping of flowers, all the white flowers in one group. So if you see a white flower blooming in the summer months, it becomes easy to identify rather than looking for the name of the flower in among 100 odd trees. And in Jamshedpur, I realized there is extremes of weather is there in summer and winter. The weather is quite different from what it is in Kerala. So in the winter months, some of the trees they shed all their leaves, then they get covered with beautiful flowers. So this is one such flowering tree, which made me very curious to know more about them. This is basically from South America. The name is Tababuya aurea. It really looks like a tree of gold when it is in full bloom. You can see people walking in the Jubilee Park. So this is an amazing sight. After once your eyes are open to observe flowers and trees, then you start seeing more and more. This is a tree which doesn't look very attractive and there are only leaves over there. But come winter, you will find different type of these trees with different type of flowers. And as I came to know more about each of those trees, there is a story behind each, how the tree is named. The name Bohemia is after Bohin brothers, who both the brothers were botanists. They explained this tree. The leaf looks like the camel's foot. It's a bifid leaf. But the flowers are quite different. This one with narrow petals, this is known as Bohemia purpurea. All the petals are almost of the same color. Whereas this one, variegata, is different. The central petal is dark pink in color. And there is a beautiful story behind this bright flower. This is known as Bohemia blackiana, also known as Hong Kong orchid. This tree was an accidental hybrid that arose out of pairing of Bohemia purpurea and variegata. A single tree was found in South China, and the flower is very rich in color, very profuse in blooms, but it doesn't bear seeds. So, from that single tree which grew in South China, all the Hong Kong orchids that you see anywhere in the world, they've all come from that tree by cuttings which have been propagated and spread all over the world. So that story I found it really interesting. A similar one is a white orchid. This again, it's an absolutely beautiful flower. I could see only three such flowering trees in Jamshedpur. So the morning walks became more interesting. It became like a botany trip. And very often I used to feel like a discoverer having seen something very unusual. And when I showed these pictures to my friends, many of them thought I must have taken these pictures from Malaysia or Singapore, not really in Jamshedpur. So people who go for walks, they don't see because their eyes have not been opened to observe nature. They may get lost in thought, they may listen to music, they may roll over the events of the day, but they don't take advantage of walking in the park and look at the trees. And after this little talk, if you feel like looking out for trees, flowering trees, in the month of September, not many trees have flowers. So only one consistent flowers on a tree is the teak plant, Tectona grandis. So these are all large panicles, very small flowers arranged like a pyramid. After a few weeks, the seeds will come. This is a fruit of the teak, which looks like a small inflated green balloon, and there'll be a hard seed inside. So in September, most of the flowering trees do not bear flowers except the teak. But in the month of October onwards, many trees will bear blooms. This is a very common tree with a excellent fragrance, usually in the late evenings. It's known as a scholar tree. Again, I was at that time actually working in the hospital, taking care of my patients. But this provided a great diversion to know more about the origin of the tree, how the tree got its name. It's named the scholar tree because from the tree trunk, slates were made. This again is a very common tree all over India. And this is a acacia. It's originally from Australia. It's got long strips of yellow flowers. And then there are many powder puff like flowers which bloom in October onward. This tree, again from South America, it's known as a lipstick tree. The fruit looks like lipstick. It's a very beautiful baby pink flower. And this flower is also grown very often in the roadsides, in the road islands. It's known as a Thai crepe myrtle. So, in addition to the botanical name, knowing the common name and knowing the origin of the name, and I had enough time to observe in which month the tree bears flowers, in which month it sheds all the trees. So, all that information I could put back like this: winter, summer, monsoon. So, whichever month could be seen, I could group them like this. And there were also different aspects like a night blooming flower, etc. So, working on this book was a learning experience for me. I had published some articles related to cardiology, but working on this project was an interesting diversion. But the most exciting tree that I found over my nearly 10 to 15 years of observing trees is a huge tree. This tree, I'm sure quite a few of you may be knowing this tree. This is known as a baobab tree. It's a very huge tree. It looks like a giant elephant's leg. It's a huge one. And in most part of the year, the tree will be leafless. Only bare branches will be seen, as if the tree is looking upside down with the roots up. Therefore, it's also known as upside down tree. In the month of June, the tree starts growing flowers. These are again night blooming flowers. In order to see them, I had to go at 5:30 or 6, otherwise the flower would have fallen. And after 2, 3 June and July, the tree blooms. After that, there will be fruits of the tree. This fruit used to remind me a rat which is hanging upside down from the tree. So this was a single tree in Jamshedpur. So I really felt like Christopher Columbus having seen something. And when I peeped through this, there was a big hole. And through the hole, when I looked inside, there is enough space, as in a lift, where 6 people can stand. So I read more and more about this baobab tree. Where did the tree come from? Why there is a single tree? So my search for this, as if for a PhD project, made me read quite a few articles on the subject. In India, baobab tree is found in all these areas, not in Kerala, not in Jharkhand, Odisha state. So, and research, people have done research, botanists have done research on the baobab tree to find out how the tree has grown or spread from Africa to India and also to Australia. Through genetic mapping, they found out uh, in Kenya there is a place called Mombasa. The baobab tree, genetic composition of the baobab tree in Mombasa, Kenya, matched with the tree in Gujarat and rest of India. So, what happened? How did the tree come? Again, history says major migration of human beings took place in the 17th and 18th, 17th to 19th century when the Portuguese came and then Dutch, British, and French colonized. You can see this green color. It must have migrated at the time of colonization by Portuguese, Dutch, British, and French. They used to take African people from here for doing work, and African men used to take the baobab fruit, which is rich in vitamin C, glucose, as a source of nutrition. So, apart from the wonder of a tree, we could also link it with the historical events, which explains how a tree from Africa came to India. So this was one of my favorite subject on which I worked, and I was glad that Hindu published it. And even now, people refer to this particular topic. So, having been greatly interested by the flowering trees, I also realized that I need to share the information, at least in my city, so that the trees are saved. And while the trees from other countries, the exotic trees from other countries were quite fascinating, I also realized trees which you bring from another country need not necessarily support the local insects, butterflies, and birds. For local insects, butterflies, and birds to survive, you have to nurture native trees and native shrubs. So after going gaga over the baobab tree and the tabubuya, now I recommend don't bring trees from other countries. Please grow native trees so that our butterflies and birds find food for themselves. And another realization I had was all these are big trees which you find in forests or in big parks. And grasslands were usually considered as wastelands. So, for the last 20 years or so, there is a great excitement to plant trees, massive tree plantation drives. So, when we attempt to convert a grassland into a woodland, we are depriving species that survive on the grasslands. Like there are some birds, some insects, which need grasslands. They cannot survive in forest land. So, we should not get over excited about tree plantation and maintain grasslands as they are. That's an important uh, lesson I learned in the last few years of observing trees. Another important aspect I learned was there is an important role of the trees and plants that grow along water bodies. Plants and trees that grow along water bodies, they prevent flooding. They hold the sand over there. And all of us know what impact, disastrous impact it will have if you remove the trees and plants near the water bodies. Water doesn't stay. It just causes great floods as it happened frequently for the last 3 4 years. But I'm an optimistic person. Once you are aware that this is the root of the problem, from now onward we can take measure to preserve trees and plants along water bodies, not to convert grasslands into forest lands, and also plant native shrubs and trees. So that is what policymakers should do. That's what adults should do. But how do we sensitize children to appreciate nature? the role of a teacher is very important. I still remember from my school days, one teacher who stands out distinctly in my memory is a biology teacher, Leela Mani Ambrose. I studied in a Tamil medium school in Thiruvananthapuram. The teacher held a small pigeon in her hand and she showed the leg of the pigeon, the beak, and she lifted a feather to show the ear hole. So that memory is stuck with me. Maybe that is the reason I've taken back to the childish interest of uh, observing and appreciating birds around me. And the role of parents is very important. We cannot see, you don't have to take your children to Singapore and Malaysia for holidays. Just going for a walk in the garden, walking with the child, showing some plant, make the child feel a leaf, how some leaves are soft, some leaves are feathery. All those things will increase perception of the child about nature around that. Of course, the role of NGOs like Rotary Club and corporates is very important. I feel that facilitating children to observe and appreciate nature will help them to evolve into sensitive, caring, and responsible individuals. Such children, when they grow up into adult, cannot be rude, they cannot be harsh, they cannot be cruel to another living creature. That's my belief. So it's not necessary that you have to look at a flowering tree and try to know the botanical name and more about it. Just looking at this gum hanging from a tree or the rain lily that blooms after a shower of rain recently, or the child looking at a stream water body beyond. All these things, they create memory blocks in the child's brain. And in fact, when you give experiences to the child, experiences related to nature, they become memories later on from which the child can draw upon and have a peaceful life. Because observing nature, walking in nature, is nothing short of a meditation. It eases your mind, makes you focus on things beyond you. Like in this selfie obsessed time, it is necessary for people to appreciate things beyond oneself. And these are little things which are everywhere, and one can really appreciate and enjoy the beauty. And I have told quite a lot about trees and flowers, but every living creature is a thing of beauty and a joy forever. It may be a painted grasshopper, which I saw recently while walking. It can be a common Jezebel. This butterfly flies at a higher level. Or it can be a grass yellow, common grass yellow. It's a small butterfly that flies at a low level over grass. So once your eyes are open to these things of beauty, you will really appreciate. This is a very special moth. It's known as a moon moth. It is seen in this part of the country. It's quite a large moth, as big as your hand. The peculiar thing which I learned about this moth is that does not have a digestive system. After the caterpillar stage, the adult moth doesn't eat anything, doesn't drink nectar. It lives for a few days and then dies. This is quite contrast to the Jezebel, which sucks in nectar. Now, these small nuggets of information is available in Wikipedia. Information is in the tip of the finger now. But one need to ask the question to get the right answer. In order to ask the question, you should be curious about it. In order to become curious, you should become aware of our surroundings. That's the single message that I would like to convey. And my current focus is really on birds. This is my obsession or passion for the last 4 years. My husband says passion is okay, but obsession is really bad. So I limit myself to a high level of passion now. This is a small bird, Indian pitta. This is a beautiful bird. The tail is almost 3 times the length of its body. Now, these two birds, they come from Western Ghats, mostly from Kerala, Karnataka, to this part of the country, the north part, northern, western, and the eastern part. They come here, they build nests. They usually come in the month of April, May, June. They stay here, build nest, raise their chicks. In July, they go back to Western Ghats. Now, why do these tiny birds migrate all the way? It has remained a mystery. Why? How does a bird with such a long tail come without being migrate without being harmed? That again is a mystery. So, biology, there are many things which are still not known. Why does bird migrate? How does the bird safely migrate? There are many things unanswered for which the answers should come from young people now who will take up biology as an interesting subject to pursue. So this is a tricolor munia with the black, brown, and white color, the back and the front of the bird. This red avidavet is also a similar to this same species, but this bird has got a unique breeding plumage. It looks like a strawberry, and this breeding plumage comes in the month of September. So from September 1st onward, we in Jamshedpur are very eager to see the breeding plumage. This I got it last Sunday. And after the breeding, the bird becomes a dull brown color. Again, why does it happen? There are many questions unanswered in biology. This picture, this is a bird Indian Shama. It's a very beautiful bird, not often seen, but very often heard in the forest. It's a very melodious call of this bird. It looks quite different from the front and the back. The reason why I put up this picture is that this is the first bird call which was recorded ever. Long back, a German recorded the call of this bird. Now, any bird call you can get in the YouTube, and bird photographers, some of them, use it unethically to attract the bird, come out to the open. But this is the first bird whose call was recorded, Indian Shama. Uh, this is how I encourage my grandchildren to look at the birds. I took them to show the Baya Weaver bird nest. They were happy to use their binoculars and use the camera to look at the bird. And my granddaughter said, "This nest is looking different. This is green. Others are all brown in color. It's green because this is a fresh nest being built." And the peculiar story about this Baya Weaver bird is that the male bird builds a nest, it constructs it halfway through, and then waits eagerly for a female bird to come and approve. If a female bird approves of the nest, then he will complete it, make it like a basket. If no female bird approves it, then he will abandon the nest and build another nest. And also, it is important to realize how do these birds have the instinct what to feed their children feed their chicks. Adult weaver bird, they mostly survive on seeds. But when they have chicks, they give them high protein caterpillars and insects. Now, in human beings, we talk about malnutrition, we talk about midday meal program, but these birds instinctively know that their growing chicks need high protein food. So there is a lot to learn from nature. This again is a very fascinating bird, owlet. Now, I don't know how many of you can observe. This is the back of the bird, and the bird has turned its head all the way back. I was standing somewhere here to look at the bird. The bird has turned the head all the way back to look at me. How does a bird, how does the owl turn its head 270 degrees? while we can turn only 180 degrees from side to side. It is necessary for the owl to have a wide range of movement of the neck because owl's eyes are tubes like binoculars. They are fixed to the skull, whereas our eyeballs can be rotated sideways. So it is necessary for the owl to be able to rotate its head over a higher range in order to capture its prey. And another important difference is that we have got 7 vertebrae in the neck. Owl has got double the number. So more vertebrae, more flexibility. And the bone structure is such that when the owl turns its head, blood vessels to the brain do not get pinched. Whereas when we turn our head, elderly person turning our head may feel giddy because arteries go through the vertebrae and they tend to get pinched. So these are all amazing evolutionary mechanisms in order to suit the lifestyle of the particular bird. Again, this article was accepted for the open page, and many people appreciated the explanation given about how an owl can rotate its head so much. See, we cannot leave these aspects only to biologists. Even a common person should know what are the wonders of nature. The amazing bird is the bar-headed goose. Bar-headed goose starts migrating from Mongolia, a northern part of Russia, to India. It will start coming from the month of October and stay on till February or so. From Mongolia and Russia, the bird flies over Mount Everest. Over Mount Everest. See, this bird had been migrating for several generations. Those days, Mount Everest was not so tall. Even as the Mount Everest started growing, the bar-headed goose continued the same path, flying over the Everest and not circumventing that. Now, we all know at high altitudes there is low oxygen, and long distance migration is like a high endurance physical feat. How does a bird get oxygen? How does a bird doesn't get a heart attack at a high altitude? Physiologists have tried to understand. Again, the last answer is not there, but they have tried to understand that we have two lungs, but the bar-headed goose has 9 air sacs. These air sacs will directly take in air and allow it to dissipate into the bloodstream. And also, hemoglobin of the bar-headed goose can absorb lot more oxygen than what the human hemoglobin does. And as a cardiologist, I would like to say that the heart muscle, especially that of the left ventricle, suffers a heart attack when there is not enough blood flowing into the muscle. But a bar-headed goose does not suffer a heart attack because there are a lot more capillaries supplying blood to the heart muscle. Because of all these adaptation mechanisms, the bar-headed goose is able to fly over the Himalayas for a long distance. Isn't it really amazing? And this picture, another curiosity which I had was shared by one of my birding friends, Subrata Basak. He's a very senior officer in Tata Steel. He took this photograph last week just outside this house. This is a woodpecker with a tongue which is so long. The woodpecker needs a long tongue because it has to catch an insect lying in the depth of a burrow in a tree. And when the long tongue is drawn back, it splits into two, goes over the brain, and is attached to the upper bill. It's a muscular structure, so it can contract and go back, or it can relax and come forward. This buffer also protects the woodpecker's brain from getting damaged when the woodpecker pecks vigorously on a hard surface. I'm sure some of you must have develop migraine headache when there's a loud continuous noise. I used to get. But a woodpecker doesn't get a migraine, doesn't get a brain hemorrhage, even though it pecks vigorously, because the tongue acts as a cushion and absorbs some of the force. Again, it's a fascinating aspect of biology. Now, coming to all these fascinating things that I was fortunate to see, my grandson told me about a tailor bird in his garden. He said it was coming frequently on this particular tree, mango tree. Then, after a few days, he said it is carrying some spider web type of thing. He watched the spider web being made into a nest by stitching. And I told him not to disturb the bird. The bird may abandon the egg and leave the chicks unattended. So he sat at a safe distance. He continued to watch and shared photographs of the chicks being fed. And he was very happy when the chicks flew off and sat on a group of bamboo shoots and then flew away. So we have to train the child not to disturb the nest, not to be curious and poke at the egg. So that will be responsible bird watching, I would say. So again, while admitting that I'm not a school teacher, I would like all the teachers to encourage the children to be in sync with nature and motivate them to take interest to know about different aspects of nature around them. In addition to knowing, they should also learn to communicate. Each child can communicate in the class in a written form, spoken form, or in the modern digital form about what they have observed about a flower, about a bird, about a butterfly, anything. So, periodic communication will help them to improve the communication skills. And communication skill is very important, whether they become a doctor, engineer, bank officer, or just anybody, a school teacher. Everybody needs to communicate. That is the biggest difference between humans and animals. We can communicate through words, through writing, and we should augment that skill in us by allowing children to communicate at young age. Tomorrow in Jamshedpur, we have called 16 schools to present their observation about their activities of the eco clubs. I did not know much about the eco clubs, but after listening to them, I wish to expand the scope by sensitizing them to observe nature by taking them for a tree walk or a butterfly walk. September is known as a big butterfly month. So I would like our bird watchers to collaborate with the Eco Club in schools and sensitize them to appreciate. I do believe unless they appreciate, they will not fulfill the necessary steps for conservation. I will also use this forum to make the children uh, make their environment bird friendly by keeping growing some native trees and shrubs, by keeping some nest boxes, or keeping just a bowl of water and not disturb birds which come around their houses. In fact, it's not necessary to go far for seeing birds. Birds are everywhere. If you just open the window or door and look out, you will see some bird or other. As your observation increases, you will observe more. And what are the benefits for myself from bird watching? As I told you, it's like meditation, gives peace of mind. And I've learned the new skill of compiling my findings, improving my photographic skills, which is not very good right now, but enough for me to take a picture and recognize a bird. And benefits to environment will certainly be by preservation of biodiversity. Until I started seeing the birds, I did not think about preserving. Now I wish to preserve the habitat of a tailor bird, habitat of an owl, habitat of a woodpecker, because they are such lovely creatures. So you, unless you love something, appreciate something, the necessary effort to put on conservation probably may not come. And I wish to conclude my presentation with these two slides. Here is a girl walking in a garden. She's not listening to the chirping of birds. She's got a earphone. She's probably listening to some music. Listening to music is good. Walking in the garden is good. But it'll be better if she listens to the chirping of birds around her. This girl traveling in a train is busy messaging in her mobile phone. There is a tree outside. Uh, Late Mr. Krishnan, he was a renowned wildlife photographer in Tamil Nadu. In one of his articles, he has written, one third of the bird species in India you can see if you travel by train from Kanyakumari to Kashmir and sit by the train window. You can always see the birds sitting on a field, sitting on the wires, or sitting on the tree. But for that, you have to stop fidgeting with the mobile phone and look out. Who will tell her? Anyway, I could succeed in instilling some desire in my grandchild. She is trying to identify the lupin flower from the book on small shrubs in the garden. So I would request all the listeners to nurture desire, awareness, and curiosity in the children, your children, school children, yourself, or anybody else. That's perhaps the only way to conserve planet Earth. Can't we shoot a bird or tree and check with Google Lens and find out if it is already known to outside world? That's a very simple way. That's what I used to do earlier. But sometimes when you take a photograph with a mobile, for a tree, leaf, or a flower, it is okay. But for a bird, you may not be able to get a close-up picture of a shy bird. So this is okay for a flower or a tree. But then the more accurate way of knowing it may be, this may be an approximate identification, may not be very accurate. So going to the next level of identification will be, like for example, for a bird, you can download an app called Merlin app. So Merlin app will be more accurate than Google Lens. So, but start with Google Lens is a good and easy way, because if the initial step is difficult, one may not pursue. So try to take the easy way, try to identify, and then you can move forward if the interest persists.
Thank you, ma'am, for that. We have another question from Omkar Esnag. How do birds travel from one continent to another? How do they know that October is a good month to be in India?
See, birds leave a place where they live because the weather has become very cold, food is not available. These are the basic driving instincts for leaving the place, like leaving Siberia and coming to southern part of India. That is a main driving force. So, like a winter comes at a particular time. So, bird prepares for that by eating a lot and preparing for the long journey. They also shrink physiologically certain parts of the body which are not required to function in optimal condition. So the trigger is at inclement weather and approaching deficiency of food supply. And how do they know? Like we very often we use a GPS to go from one place to another. The birds have got their own magnetic crystals in the tip of the uh, bill. Left side of the bill has got certain magnetic crystals. Those magnetic crystals align with the earth magnetism. So by aligning them, they follow the same path. They also use the familiar structures like a mountain or a river. Now, when we abolish a mountain, when we block a river, when we cut extensively trees, they do get lost. So the ecology should, environment should remain without much disturbance. Then the birds will be able to find their way. See, I have been to Ethiopia recently, last month, in fact, on a medical mission. The hospital was about 90 years old, and the hospital buildings were single storied. Exterior was brownish or reddish or grayish in color, and there were many trees. It looks as if the hospital was inserted into the habitat of the birds, not imposed. So much so, we could see about 31 species of African birds while walking around in the campus itself. So we are converting our city into concrete jungles. Where will birds come? We should realize that the birds have as much right as we have. So we should insinuate our habitats without disturbing the. I mean, it's a very big statement. It may not be practical, but as much as possible, without disturbing and cutting trees, keeping the native trees, without the jarring exterior of a pink building or an yellow building. Birds will not get scared. Like when we go for bird watching, we wear dresses of deep brown or in a camouflage dress so that bird doesn't get scared of me. But when you put a big structure which is brown, white, or uh, yellow in color, birds will not come anywhere near. So all these aspects have to be, these aspects if children learn from childhood, when he becomes an architect, when he becomes an industrialist, he will keep that in mind. I think some corner of the mind, what the biology teacher told him about not disturbing the ecology too much will come to his mind. I think that's a very important step to consider.
Thank you, ma'am. We have another question from Diya Srikumar. As a child who grew up in the urban cities when digitalization peaked, I found it very difficult to continue the curiosity and keep in touch with nature. What do you suggest students and children in cities do as they are less exposed to nature?
See, I used to think the same. But then after I shifted to a fourth, in a block, living in the fourth floor, earlier, I was in a bungalow which was at the ground level. Now, after retirement, I've lifted to the fourth floor block. The type of birds that I see just outside, I had not seen. I had only seen parrot and myna and pigeon. But now I know so many birds right outside. So they are there everywhere. It's that we don't have the eyes to see them. Once you develop the eyes to see, ears to listen, you will see everywhere. And my daughter living in a busy area in Bangalore, she tells me about exotic birds which she sees there. It's because, she has been sensitive. I keep sharing photographs of the birds I see. So they get inclined to look out for them. So they're there everywhere. Our country is still not bad. We will see many birds if only we look out. And there is a question about native trees. See,
Yes,
our
ma'am.
native trees and shrubs like curry leaves. A particular butterfly lays eggs on the curry leaves. Now, if you think so many caterpillar, let me cut the curry leaf tree, then you're stopping the breeding place for a butterfly. So at least like when we mow our lawn, keep a well-trimmed lawn, butterflies or insects cannot come there. Or when you spray insecticides, how will insects come? So you have to be considerate. You may have a garden, but it may not be a garden which is friendly to bees, insects, and butterflies. At least one third of the garden, if you leave it as it is with native plants, native small plants, it will attract. Things are not hopeless. I'm really very optimistic. We have to be sensitive and alert to preserve a bit of wilderness in our garden. Not everything should be very disciplined line of plants and flowering shrubs. That would be too good for a real world.
And there's another question from Seema. Can you please tell us about the scope and importance of observing nature in the era of artificial intelligence? Because we have possibility of AI in every area.
See, artificial intelligence, I don't have much idea on that. See, it's very easy for me to identify the name of a bird by sharing the picture to a friend. For more experienced birder, I can share a picture. But there is a thrill if I find it myself. So I don't know whether I'm answering the question correctly or not. There is a discovering for yourself, finding the answer for yourself, finding the name, who discovered the bird, How did it get its name? Where does it grow during the summer month? There's a lot of things to learn. Every last word has not been said about any species.
Then we have another question from Omkar Esnath. How can we set up eco clubs in schools? Any suggestions?
See, again, Eco Club is a new concept for me. I had been asking my friends in the Rotary Club who run some schools. So one lady shared with me the activities of the Eco Club, what they function. They do mainly activities related to cleaning up the environment, removing plastic, reduce, reuse, recycle. That is one activity. Conservation of water is another one. And some planting some trees. That is a activity. They may be doing many other activities. But as someone who's interested in plants and trees and butterflies and birds, I want to tomorrow when I listen to the Eco Club presentation, I would like to see what they are doing right now. And if there is a scope, if there is a lack between appreciation and doing. So you may do something because somebody has asked you to do. But do you know why you are doing it? The teacher has asked to not bring plastic, therefore you're not bringing. Now, if you see a bird with the plastic stuck on its leg, maybe that will be a stronger reason not to bring plastic. Or if you continuously see some birds coming to your area, then some years you don't find, then you would like to know why is it not coming? Like there were some sparrows which used to roost in the evenings on a road behind. Then suddenly one morning, the bougainvillea shrub in which the sparrows used to roost that had been cut. So and it's like, like your house being wiped away in a flood. The sparrow must have got stranded. So, but the person was not cruel. He would not have liked to abandon the sparrows. If we had known sparrows are coming here every day to roost, I should not cut the entire plant. At least some portion I should keep. Or I should think of making an alternative entry where I can modify the structure as well as preserve the sparrow. That sensitization is lacking. That is where I would like to interfere in the working of the Eco Club. Let me see. I don't know. It's like an open chapter for me. There's no end result. I have to find where it's like everyone learns and everyone teaches. I'm learning something. What I learn, if I learn something useful, I would like to teach. It's an open book for me.
Thank you, ma'am. There's another question from Deepali Verma. Pressure of completing syllabus for senior classes. How can we bring our students closer to nature?
See, again, I was fortunate because I was a very Padaku girl. I used to read a lot, focus only on my textbooks. And while working in medical college, I had no eye or ear for anything else. Same continued until I retired from my job also. It was all patient and hospital related. But then I find young officers who come with me for bird watching. Some of them are general managers, leading important positions. They have known how to combine a hobby with a job. Even when they travel, they know how, because now they have got the eyes and ears for observation. Even when they travel, they observe birds. Like I had gone on medical missions at least 5 times earlier to Africa, but I had never seen birds. But this time I'm an awakened person. So, in addition to the hospital work, I could observe birds. At the same time, overindulgence should not deprive you of the necessity to study. So, it's a balance. So, but then one should not wait for retirement like I have done to see birds and trees. One should learn how to strike a balance right from young days. And
Is
career
there
associated with nature, I think there are a lot of opportunities. So many diseases, the pandemics and all, it's all because we didn't understand biology. The vaccine was developed because somebody spread their entire life on developing mRNA. So there is a lot of scope for biology. Artificial intelligence may come, but then basic intelligence to understand biology and apply that is very much important. And also how to prevent stroke, how to prevent a heart attack, how to prevent migraine. I think there are lessons to learn from the owl and the bar-headed goose and the how to develop a good helmet. It's something to learn from a woodpecker. And how to give high protein food instinctively to children, not like a breastfeeding month we observe once in a year. That should not be the reason. There should be instinctively, mothers should give high protein food to children. So I think there are a lot of scopes. What we are doing in Jamshedpur is we are coordinating with the forest department. We are trying to teach tribal boys how to recognize, identify birds and the trees. We want to train them as eco guides. There is no eco tourism concept, unlike in Madhya Pradesh or Rajasthan. So we want to develop the local unemployed youth who are living in the jungle to train as eco guides in future. So I think there is scope. May not be a high paying job, but it'll be a very interesting job and which would probably make him enough money to take care of himself and his family.